everybody, here's a new prop for renovation. This is from Red Dwarf, Season 8. It's a scene in the opening sequence where Starbug crashes through into the landing bay. It's a background piece, it's really nice, absolutely gorgeous. Massive thing, about 1.6 meters long top to bottom, sat vertically against the wall with a lot of pipe work on it. You can see the grime that's built up over the last 30 years since this was used. Interesting to see the paint jobs on these things, how rough they are and how well they register on screen. This is not like any paint job that I would do, unless it was going to be on screen and thrown in a skip. This finish is actually done in what we call a dry spray. It's where you spray from a distance and the tiny particles of paint actually dry before they hit the surface, which creates a really textured look. Good on film because it doesn't reflect anything, but when it comes to renovation, these small surface textures really make a mess of how you can clean it. So we've got to be dead careful with this. So we're going to work down from the top of this. Take off whatever we can from those little edges. It's pretty filthy. I can see dirt coming off as I work it. Trying to be careful not to find any edges of paint that may lift areas off. However, with something this old, it's very difficult to predict exactly what's going to happen. But these are nice soft bristles on this brush. Not much pressure put on, but they're strong enough to actually get into the texture. This is very dry sprayed on here. You can see this is completely loose and broken. You can see the glue marks where it's been repaired before. So this has a history of being repaired. And you can probably see the dirt coming off there now. 35, 40 years on a shelf or in a shed or somewhere. It's an awful lot of dust. Okay, that's a lot of the surface dust off, and you can see the amount of crap that's coming off this. Look at that. There is an element of colour to that, so it is taking very slight parts of the paint off, and I believe that to be the dry spray on the surface which sits, you can hear, it's like sandpaper, tiny little deposits of paint as it's been sprayed from a distance, hence the shape of these washes where they just bleed through the texture on the surface. The pipe work has seen better days, as you can tell. This part actually fits onto here, and there's a couple more pieces like these which fit at the top end here, and there's a lot more of these missing, so I'm replacing a lot of these. There's a few fittings on there which match perfectly to EMA's catalogue, and they're going to be replaced and repaired and redone. There's another 3 sets of piping like this one to go on the model, so it's quite complex when it's finished. A large area here that's missing some detail, not sure what used to live in here, so that's going to be intriguing. Telltale signs, witness marks from paint, so we know where the pipes come from, we know where they attach. Inside here are a few spares. Again, you can see there's a part missing here, possibly one of these, but I'm not sure. And as we move up, you can see the small idents that were put onto this model by printed paper with double-sided tape. Some of those are now losing their adhesion, so they have to be replaced. Down at the bottom here, there's a nice one, which is kind of cool. It's got Red Dwarf written on it. You can see that. Get the shadow out of the way. Nice. The problem at the moment is I can't find this particular spacer. This piece. Really tricky to find. Anyone knows it, please put a message in, because this is like hen's teeth to find this thing. So that's my mission at the moment. Finding the position of these is not that tricky. You just have to look for the telltale points on the main model where these attach, where the glue marks are, and everything should be pretty good. So moving on to the middle section, there's a very large recess inside here that I can't access without removing this panel, and this panel is stuck down. I don't want to take it off really, there's no real reason to, so I'm just going to have to blow in there and close my eyes. Hopefully that's dislodged anything that is loose. Now, yeah, just try and clean up the pizzas. Look at the dust on that baby there. Whew. I'm not vacuuming it because I don't want to suck anything off. Pretty obvious really, but for those of you thinking, why doesn't he use a little vacuum cleaner? No, this is the easiest way, and you tend to look more when you're brushing than you do when you're hoovering. We're doing. Man, this is a filthy model. So because this model has a dry spray finish on it, obviously whenever I brush I'm going to peel off some of these very tiny granules of paint off the surface. Now there's nothing I can do about that. If I want to get the dirt off, it's going to take some of the paint off. As you can see on the dust, it has a very slight yellow colour to it. So when I clean this edge up, I'm expecting some more colour to come off, but it's not detracting from the overall look, and it's not digging deeper down into the primer. I'm happy with the way it looks, so we're all good. So as I brush through this, you'll probably see a marked difference in the colour. You see these, another loose piece there I think. Yep, that needs sorting out. You should see that now looks an awful lot cleaner. Still got all the weathering on it. It looks a lot cleaner than it did a few minutes ago. It's not until you get the dust and dirt off that you start to see what's paint and what's muck. And really, what you're trying to do is just leave the paint. Because the paint is what the artist did, and the muck is what the decades did. I'm not worried about the decades. I want what the artist did. So working down onto the bottom bit, slowly but surely, working from top to bottom. Seems to be some scorch marks here. This will be from the explosion that you see at the beginning of the sequence of Red Dwarf. Oh, just off camera. See these little black marks just on the surface? That's where they used powdered rubber to do the explosion scene at the beginning. These are little scorch marks from the explosion in the loading bay. So I'm going to leave those, that's for sure, and get this bit cleaned up. Don't know if you can see the amount of dust that's moving around on this, but there is a lot of it. Get the majority off with this 1.5" brush. There's a lot trapped in these crevices. You can see which way up this was when it was stored. It's nice to work on a piece of history like this. This is an actual screen used part you can see in every episode of Red Dwarf Series 8, and it is never going to be rebuilt again unless anybody wants to make a prop replica of this, which I doubt very much. These little paper signs are stuck on with double-sided tape, and over the years the adhesion layer has just crystallized, and these are now separate from the layer that stuck them to the model. So I'll be removing these carefully, which is not difficult. You can see now that's the paper logo, and this is the remnants of the sticky layer below it. So that should come off as well. And that is the adhesive layer that's crystallized over the years. So I'll take a reference of that and then replace that once it's cleaned up. I'm going to bag these up.